One.
Hi everybody, Bob Bloom back with you. Congratulations Webaforce members, because we're in our asset protection video series and we're hoping to explain to you why asset protection works, how asset protection works, and what in the world is asset protection. One of the sections or subsections is estate planning. The other two sections are tax reduction and lawsuit protection. We're going to talk now about estate planning a little bit, and this is a section that, if you stick with me, can be very, very interesting and very important for you to understand, because this is going to lay the groundwork for an unbelievably important tool for especially real estate investors. But this is still important information for everybody, and you'll see why. All right, we talked already about a living trust and the fact that this is the tool that ideally protects against probate. Probate is the judicial administration of your estate following your passing, and it is the way that your estate is distributed to your loved ones. It's court supervised and can be time consuming, expensive, and it can be intrusive because you have the public could be involved. I mean, there are other people involved. Certainly a court is involved and other people. So it's anything but private, all right? So I want to go back into the background of trusts just for a little bit. And trusts really arose in the Middle Ages when, during the Crusades and the Age of Knights in England, typically. And this was when a lord of a manor, you think Downton Abbey or something like this, the lord was going off to fight in the Crusades, and he didn't frankly know if he was going to come back. Hoped to, but he's leaving a family behind in the manor house, and he has this large estate, which is primarily a farm and grazing lands, etc., produces income, these large estates. And so the knight or lord turns to his trusted friend and says, will you manage the business affairs of my estate? And in order to do so, I'm going to give you the authority to do it. I'm going to transfer legal title to you, my trusted friend, to manage the affairs of my estate in my absence. And by the way, if I don't come back, you want to do this for the benefit of my family, who can continue to live there and use and enjoy the property, all right? So this concept of a trust is centuries old, rooted from the very Middle Ages in English common law, which is the general basis for our laws in the United States, all right? So we have really two titles in a piece of real estate. We have legal title and we have equitable title. Now, in other words, legal title is, let's say you own the house and you have title in your name. Well, that's pretty simple and straightforward. That's ownership of the house. And in this instance, I'm going to use a rough analogy, which is not precise, but it makes sense enough to apply. Let's say you rent this property and you own the property, legal titles in your name, but the renter has essentially equitable title. In other words, the renter has the right to use the property, the right to use and enjoy the property, exclusive to the renter and no one else, all right? That is what you've granted to the renter in the lease, all right? Now, while this isn't absolutely precise, it's pretty darn close, all right? So in other words, when the Lord entrusted his estate to who became known as a trustee, the trustee gained legal title to the estate, so he had the authority to actually execute the duties of the legal owner of the estate, collect the funds and pay bills. So the person who makes the trust is called the grantor. They grant the legal title to someone. The settlor is the same name, or a trustor is the person who creates the trust. That is the lord going off to fight in the Crusades. On the other hand, the trustee is the trusted friend who's going to now have legal title, and the trustee will manage the affairs of the estate for the benefit of the lord's heirs or family, and that would be the beneficiaries as we know them today. So, in other words, the way it worked is the grantor vested legal title in the trustee, or the trustor gave legal title to the trustee, who manages the estate for the benefit of the beneficiaries who hold beneficial or equitable title, the right to use and enjoy the property. All right? Now, the problem is this. Let's say we want to, this is background to introduce this very important concept of a land trust. And land trusts are used in this instance. Let's say you want to protect assets by moving real estate into a loss of protection entity, but the property is encumbered by a mortgage, which is very, very typical. All right? The problem is the due on sale clause. Most mortgages are going to say that any transfer of the property, any interest in the property, will trigger the due on sale clause, which means the lender has the right to immediately call the note, and all funds are immediately due and payable on the note. Now, that is the case with one exception. And that, let me illustrate it this way. If you try to transfer a property into a loss protection entity, that will typically trigger the due on sale clause. So the way we avoid that problem or solve the problem is a federal law called the Garn-St. Germain Depository Institutions Act of 1982. This is a law that prevents a lender from calling a note when the property is transferred to a revocable trust. That means a trust that you create during your lifetime, which is revocable. In other words, can be revoked. A land trust satisfies this act as long as the property is residential and is 4 units or less, which would make it non-commercial property. All right? So a trust is a trust is a trust, and a trust always divides legal title from equitable title. So watch how this works. Now we transfer title to a land trust, which holds legal title. But we can therefore transfer the beneficial interest to somebody else. And if it's transferred to you or your family, well, now we have not violated the due on sale clause. The problem is this. If a lawsuit strikes you or your family, you can end up losing the beneficial interest because there's no protection of the beneficial interest. So instead, what we want to do is transfer the beneficial interest to a lawsuit protection entity, such as a limited liability company in certain states or a limited partnership. And now, if a lawsuit strikes, that beneficial interest is protected. Now, the way we make our real estate essentially disappear from public record is this. We transfer it to a land trust. Land trusts are created by statute in a number of states, and they're accepted in the rest of the states that don't have a statute under the U.S. Constitution through common law. All right, so these are acceptable in all 50 states, and the good news is this. A land trust is not filed with the state, which means there's no filing fee, it gives you greater privacy, and there's no tax return to file for a land trust. Second of all, you don't have to be listed as the trustee because you can use a nominee trustee who is somebody else other than you, who then immediately resigns after the property is transferred, and you become the successor trustee. So just as an example, if you own the property yourself and someone does a title search through the county recorder or registrar of deeds, they'll find you as the legal owner, and then they can find where you live and everything else about you. On the other hand, if they do a title search and they find that the Maple Avenue Land Trust is the owner, what do? The land trust is not filed. It's just listed as the owner, and we have a dead end if someone's looking for the actual owner of the property. Well, it's the land trust, but that's where the trail stops. And so why would we want to use a land trust? Well, to avoid, number one, the due on sale clause. Number two, to better protect the asset by transferring legal title to the land trust and beneficial or equitable title to a lawsuit protection entity, and then it gives you greater anonymity as well. All right, now we don't rely on anonymity or privacy for lawsuit protection, but it helps to simply avoid the lawsuit in the first place. All right? I want to thank you all for being with us. There's more to come, and want to welcome you to watch future videos on asset protection, and we hope this is a great education for you. Thank you very much.